Zero here, back again with another video, and I am here with the amazing Mobile Gamer. How are you doing
Hello.
today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself?
I'm wonderful. I'm trying to figure out what we're gonna do to get Professor X. That's gonna be a fun one.
There you go.
I have some set choices, also the recommendations that Scopely gave out. I don't know if they're 100% correct, and I'm not going to completely endorse it, but there are some suggestions on there where they gave them, which are, coming up with City, Vigilante, Blade, and Oath. Villains Global, you got Orchids, Apocalypse, and Ares. I don't know about Ares. Hero Global, you got Liberty. I could laugh at Liberty. I don't know why. I don't know why they're there. Villain Cosmic, and then you definitely got to do Lilandra, and then Hero Cosmic.
Right.
I don't think there's many choices for City. City doesn't really have a lot of outstanding characters out there, but I mean, Blade and Oath, obviously. I'm choosing the Spiders only because they just don't seem to go away. And they stick around. I'm hoping that some sustain with them can keep up with the stats, but I'm not entirely sure they'll. I don't know any other characters that could really come along and actually do some damage in these nodes, especially with the new stats.
Right. So if we're talking characters that are in game with post Ares stats, you basically only have three, which is Blade, Oath, and Moon Knight. And Moon Knight was kind of deleted from my list. And when I first saw this, I was like, well, the only two no-brainers are going to be Blade and Oath. And then from there, it's uncertain. Now, in the data mine, which is interesting that they had suggestions, which I did not know, mentioned Vigilante. We don't have any information currently on what Vigilante looks like or if they're any good. I mean, what if they're just as bad as the Starjammers? We'll have to see. But for right now, I think the only two no-brainers here are Blade and Oath, and then the rest of it is somewhat up for debate. Like, I think Spider Society is for sure interesting pre-Ares stats, but they proved to be, like you said, they're. I wonder if they're the next Infinity Watch, the cockroaches of Marvel Strike Force. They're just never going to go away, right? It could be Spider Society is that team that has the shelf like similar to that of Infinity Watch.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they could do much, at least with the sustain from Peter, but I'm weary if the stats are going to be like Oath and Blade there, and then they just get overcome with just being an outdated team. But they still stick around no matter what. People still use them, and they're still out there. So I hope they do good, but that's just a hope, and there's really not a lot of hope sometimes.
Right.
Now for I think we were trying to figure out like Heroes Global, Villains Global. I believe it was like a weird like setup with how you're supposed to
Well,
do it.
villains global is going to be
Cool.
before anything else. Without that, the one that we don't know is the third and fourth set of 20s and the order of that. So, we know that City's going to be first. We know that villains global is going to be second. We know that Heroes Cosmic Lilandra is going to be last. So the debate is on the positioning of the fourth and the fifth.
Hmm. Well, then I'll start with just Heroes Global since I got them up anyway.
Hmm.
I'm going with the interesting setup just because I do like Hank. Obviously, Old Man Logan is a staple. There's really no reason not to. Black Knight's, even though his stats work, still kind of right in between, new and old, and he still sticks around. And I like Ancient One just because when she puts counters out there, everybody hits. And I'm hoping that Old Man Logan just starts deleting people, but I'm hoping for the sustain from Hank. Emma's there just because hey, she's gonna speed up Old Man Logan for a little bit, but I don't know how. It depends on the characters that are the enemies. I think that's the big thing, but we don't know those yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only one that's a no-brainer here is going to be Old Man Logan. Black Knight actually was falling off pretty hard, but Kahori brought him back. So, I think he wouldn't be as useful if it wasn't for Kahori. Like he's somewhat of a counter for Kahori. So that is interesting. I like that you got Astral there. Now, Astral is split up amongst these teams, like Shadow King would be on villain Cosmic rather than here, right? So they're all over the place. And, we'll have to see how this plays out. You've got Hank there, which is pre Aries. I'm not sold on that necessarily. And the suggestions coming in from them would be Liberty and Jean Grey. Now, Liberty, I do think Captain America Sam Wilson is interesting and has somewhat plug and play. And then of course his ultimate is very useful outside of his team, right? So I really like the idea of Captain America Sam Wilson, mostly because of his ultimate ability, and it does a good amount of damage, and he has pretty good stats, a lot of health.
Yeah, if it looks like this lineup's not going, I'm definitely gonna have to make some changes. I think we just need to see the enemies that we're going against to see,
Hmm.
because I know that the Ancient One and Emma are really good stats. They could hold up, but depends on whether or not Hank can keep them sustained. We just got to see the enemies, and then I'll probably adjust depending on where we go with it. All right, villains global. I'm still sold on Cabal. I really do like Cabal, especially with the 50% extra. Well, the 50% extra damage with it. Vulnerables come out. I mean, APOC will be nuts, and I just like Nimrod. Nimrod is just ridiculously powerful. I just love him. Hopefully, leader can keep these guys sustained for a little bit, and same thing with APOC. But I still love the 3-piece plus 2 other villains. That's just my take.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a place for in the game for them just because of what they do for villains long term. You can definitely shoehorn a current villain onto a Cabal team, and they're going to wreck, right? Just because of leader's passive, right? The other choice would be Orcus. Orcus is post Ares, and they have amazing stats. They suggested Ares himself, which I don't think is a good choice. He's just so ridiculously slow. I don't feel like he's viable anywhere really outside of his use of his passive. And his passive in Crucible does the same thing essentially that Apocalypse would do, preventing safeguard and spawn. And then in War, his passive is bonkers. But even when he's got all of his stuff turned on in War, he's just so slow. It's hard to get good use out of him. So I think I'm going to go the Orcus Apocalypse route, but I could see making a case there for Cabal.
Yeah, I'm not doing Ares. I agree. He's completely slow. I wish he had the speed of Hercules at least, and then maybe
Hmm.
Hercules has his kit, but Ares just isn't as I thought he was going to be viable, but he's not. He really doesn't push as much.
Yeah, I'm not. Like when I look at the dev recommendations with Ares, I'm not seeing it at all.
Villain Cosmic. The two big staples obviously are Mephisto and Skrull. They're just coming in hot regardless. I love Shadow King, so at least when the ults go off, there'll be some turn meter around there, unless there's something that they do to stop turn meter on the enemy side, because they did say there's going to be some fun mechanics that some of the bosses are going to have, which I'm really excited to see how they do this, what else they're going to put in there. But Gladiator, he's just ridiculously strong. Same thing with his health and his armor. He just takes a hit and just keeps on taking them. And then Thanos is there. Hopefully he doesn't get triggered too fast and he still stays alive. I'm hoping that there is some sustain with Shadow King with them, but I'm hoping Mephisto can help out there too. I don't know if Mephisto's going to be used right or not, depending on who the enemies are and if he's going to be countered right away or sus.
Yeah, I mean the other option that you don't have listed here would be Null, right? And I think
Mm.
you've got. I think there's a couple choices here. I do agree with Mephisto, Gladiator, in-game Thanos, and I think there between the Shadow King, Super Scroll, you could probably sub out one of the two for Null or Gore. And it just depends on where it's going. I'm a little bit worried about Super Scroll in that if there's any kind of turn meter counter, prevention of, because his kit depends on turn meter, right? And
Mm.
he's not great if he doesn't get that turn meter. So I'm wondering if Null will be a better choice there or even Gore.
Yeah,
We'll have to
see
see.
we have to see who the enemies are. Once the enemies come around, then you're like, well, I think I should probably take one of these guys out because it's not really going to benefit the team. And then the last one where we're forced to choose Lalandra. I'm just taking the duck because hey, I like Howard obviously because I want to use him
Mm.
somewhere. At least have something. But Odin obviously is a no brainer. I like Kahori. Hopefully, like we said, if there's no turn meter prevention, then maybe she will definitely keep it going and she'll definitely have some use there. And Doctor Strange, a couple years ago, we'd laugh at this choice. Now it's just like,
Mm.
well, he's amazing, and he could revive people. He can bring up that health, and hopefully give him more sustain besides Odin. And then there's Lalandra, who we have to use. Who I don't know, Starjammers really isn't performing as I thought they would.
So I'm super curious to see what happens with Starjammers, and I feel like when we did some testing on Starjammers, we were pretty explicit. This team is not good outside of Crucible, and the pushback we got is, well, they need to stay in their lane, and they're only going to be good in Crucible. Well, I'm not sure that's even true. The initial round of testing from yesterday is suggesting that they're not even good in Crucible, or not as impactful in Crucible as they were sold. And useless outside of Crucible, in my opinion. I mean, we kind of knew that, right? Like we kind of like that's the
Mhm.
compromise. They're useless out of Crucible. Well, that I don't know how they're not amazing in Crucible. They're somewhat situational, or maybe they're offense only and going to be used in specific situations to counter specific
Mhm.
teams. Um, so what's going to happen with Starjammers? Are they going to remain in their current form, or are they going to be tweaked? We'll have to see. I really like Corey. I think Odin's a no-brainer, and you have to take Lilandra. The other two, I don't think I want to do. I'm not feeling Howard the Duck. I do like what you did there with Doctor Strange, because I feel like you can do this, astral, but they're not going to be all together, right? But the astral team split up against these 5 different nodes. I'm also a big fan of Ms. Marvel Classic. She is absolutely insane inside of war. She will not die. I had a situation where it was one versus catch this, Undying Apocalypse. Undying Apocalypse could not kill Ms. Marvel Classic with Exhausted. Like, she's crazy. So for me, Ms. Marvel
Hmm.
Classic would have to go in here. I just, Kahori, Ms. Marvel Classic, Lilandra, Odin. We'll figure out the last one. I don't really want to do Medusa, but if Howard proves to be good or useful, if Havoc proves to be good or useful, but if not, yeah, I think Doctor Strange would be the way to go.
Yeah, I'll see the viability. I'm gonna try the viability of Howard the Duck for everybody, just to go ahead and say, hey, somebody's gonna do it. I do see the actual Miss Marvel classic part where she just becomes a freaking brick wall and you just can't get through her, and you're just like, Jesus, why won't you die? Um, I might try her here just to back up Kahor in it, and then there's actually the taunt part where you're gonna get stuck on her, so that's nice. But I'm gonna see how it goes. I will test it and have fun with it because I love chaos, so I might as well try it. Hoping we could back out and see how it goes. But then again, we're going for this particular node. We're going up against Dark Xavier, and we have no idea what his extra abilities or whatever they're gonna put on him. That's gonna probably put this whole node into chaos, which is gonna be a. I'm hoping it's a fun ride. I'm really hoping it's a fun hard ride.
Oh, well, I'm curious how punishing this is going to be. If it requires a 3-star and you choose the wrong character and you're unable to 3-star it, what is the access to gear tier 20 going to be so that you can pivot away against a poor choice? I really am, skeptical about this, because in the other versions of Dark Dimension, if you made a poor choice, it didn't stop you from moving forward, but it made it a lot slower because you were able to make some sort of incremental progress. And a poor choice meant that it took you 20 attempts versus 3 attempts. I think they're going to have a problem here if, as far as a really bad feeling, if you choose the wrong character, you can't get a 3-star. Well, I better replace this character. What if you pick the wrong 3 characters and you have to use 3 different characters? I think this is a nightmare. So it's either going to be not as bad as we think. I feel like they will make it easier than it could be. Like, I don't see any upside to them to making it too hard, if that makes any sense.
As long as it's not audible, I'm happy. I don't want to put on
Okay.
auto and it goes through. As long as if it makes it a challenge and I got to figure out the puzzle for it, sure. And if I made the bad choice, then I got to go see if they're giving us more access to G20, or I just got to wait. But yeah, the 3-star part is really, really boggling my mind, because you have to keep pushing it, which means you have to back out and do it again and keep going till you get that 3-star, which might be a little tedious, but then again, it's another puzzle that you have to figure out to try to beat this node. And like I said, with Xavier, we don't know what his Dark Xavier is going to do, and that's the other troubling part. Hopefully we could see firsthand from whoever gets to it faster, so we can make a choice. But I'm sold on Odin. I'm sold on Kahori. Yes, Howard and Stranger a little out there, but I'm gonna try it anyway just to see, because I'm gonna use them somewhere. I'm gonna use them at least in Crucible. I know that I'm gonna use them in Crucible, so they're gonna get to 20. But the other characters, I'm gonna have to wait to see how much access we have to G20.
Right. That does matter. It does matter. I don't know. I feel like access to Purple 3 in the lead up to Odin was better than the 19s were in the lead up to Mephisto.
Oh,
So we'll have to. I mean, you understand what I mean by that? Like,
yeah.
access to the requirements to get Odin was easier than Mephisto and the other dimensions before him. That was actually pretty challenging to be day one. The number of players that were day one Odin versus the number of players that were day one Mephisto or day one Super Scroll was quite a bit higher. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see how this plays out.
I'm excited for him though. I'm hoping Xavier proves to be a useful character. Same thing with Null once he comes out of. I could switch him out somewhere here, but I'm excited for these nodes. I'm hoping that everything goes right and we don't have too many bugs. But I'm gonna stand by the choices here, figure them out, see how it goes. Any other recommendations for people right off the gate?
I mean, I think that the smart play is to wait and see. I think anybody that is not impulsive like me would refrain from equipping gear tier 20 pieces. I think when you watch my video, you're going to see that I did equip a lot of the 19 pieces that were super effective. I'm not sure if that's a good suggestion for other people to do that. The smart play would be to wait and see.
All right. Well, I want to thank MobileGamer for jumping on my video. We're gonna go shoot another video on his channel with his recommendations for it. And I didn't equip too many G20s, but I'm still gonna. I'm just gonna. I see the button. I just want to click it. So I might as well just click it. But
Right.
I'll leave a link down to his video in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. And thanks, Mobile, for jumping on.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.